Now, despite the coal industry being bashed from pillar to post in recent years, primarily by environmentalists who have no sense of the practicalities of power, there are several influential politicians who've repeatedly stood up for coal. Two of them have made the trek underground tonight. New South Wales Deputy Premier and National Party leader John Barilaro. Welcome to Airlie.
Great to be here, mate.
Have you been in anything like this before?
Well, I have as the Resource Minister, but not set up to beam live out. Normally they take all our devices off us, so this is unbelievable. Well done.
And joining us too from the Hunter Valley, not far from here, Federal Labor MP Joel Fitzgibbon. You're no stranger to this either, are you?
No, I've been down a mine or three over my lifetime, Chris, but every mine is different and every mine is a different experience. And thank you to you and your team for putting in such a big effort to help Australians better understand what our mine workers do for us on a daily basis.
Yeah, not a problem. John Barilaro, 80% of Australians, if you look at the recent polls, want action on climate change. Why does that necessarily mean that we need to get rid of coal?
Yeah, I mean, that, again, the left, those environmentalists, those that are the extremists in this debate, will make you think that 80% of Australians want us to end mining. It's not that. Yes, we all want to do more on climate change, but there is no climate emergency. And I'll say that, and I'll probably get criticised for saying that. We're not going to be extinct tomorrow, and there is going to be a period of time that you transition away. We have a future of coal statement. We've got a net zero target by 2050. Everything's done in balance. Technology will change this along the next decades. So let's just be calm, protect industries that have been very important to us, and we'll transition in time as the market changes, as resources run out. You know, I've got time on our side.
So please explain to me, though, why we've got an energy minister in New South Wales by the name of Matt Keane who tells us, oh, well, we don't want to go down the gas track because that's also CO2 emissions, and yet he signed a big deal with the federal government, and at the same time he wants to stop coal in a decade. Is he serious?
Well, he's not serious, and Matt Keane's part of the cabinet and the government. He signed the bilateral with the federal government in relation to producing about 80 petajoules of gas in this state, so you can't walk away from gas. He signed off on the Future of Coal statement as the resource minister I took through the cabinet process to make it government policy. It talks about a resource in this region for 60 or 70 years, so he signed up to that. So Matt likes to go off script at times, and that's on him. But if he's part of this government, a Berejiklian Barilaro government, a Liberal national coalition, I'll use the word coal in that, the truth is he signed up to our policy, and that is coal mining, fossil fuels, gas will be all part of this landscape today and for the decades ahead.
Meanwhile, the Labor Party at the last federal election, Joel, had more positions on the coal industry than the Kama Sutra. They've settled on supporting coal mining at the moment, leading into a by-election, but this has frustrated the hell out of you on previous occasions, hasn't it? So much so, you walked.
That's all true, Chris, but a bit like John, interestingly, at the last federal election, we didn't have any anti-coal mining policies, but what we failed to do is clearly articulate the right narrative. We spent too much time talking about matters like climate change.
Constantly.
And not enough time talking about mining, power generation, the oil and gas industries and all those blue-collar jobs that flow from it. And if people are only hearing one side of the story all of the time, then they're going to come to certain conclusions. We need to be loud and proud in our pronunciation on the coal mining industries and industries like it.
So tell us, the ALP leading into the by-election is unequivocally behind the mining industry.
Yes, and I'll put in a slight correction on you. You earlier said it's a referendum on mining. Well, in fact, the Labor Party, the National Party, the Shooters and Fishers and One Nation are all proclaiming support for the mining industry in this election. You can be no doubt about the Labor Party support. So there'll be space to talk about health and education and TAFE and infrastructure and other like policies throughout the course of the campaign.
OK, back to Matt Keane. He appoints Malcolm Turnbull for the Emissions Economic Board. Everyone does their block. The Talkback radio lines went berserk. How could they do such a thing? And then, before he even sat down or had a look at a business card, he was telling people we're going to stop all new mines, a moratorium on all of this. You must have done your block.
Well, I did. I gave Malcolm the benefit of the doubt. You know, I've said this before. You know,
prior to him saying that.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. You know, I didn't want to be the bloke in cabinet because, you know, don't forget a couple of years ago, I did say that he should resign as a Christmas gift to Australia when he was Prime Minister, and that came a few months later. But the reality here is, you know, I didn't want to be the bias. The Liberal Nats have been fighting. Let's see this, and at the time I let the Libs make this decision. Now, I've apologised, said we got it wrong. We reacted. Credit to Matt that he listened, and we've we've kicked Malcolm off that board. And the truth here is, since then, what has Malcolm done? He keeps going out, he keeps demonising the sector, he demonises the families behind it, the story, the narrative. You know, he might have bought a farm up here, but the mines have been here a lot longer. And, you know, we got it wrong. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Our government policy, and this is, you know, when we talk about last election, this election, we've never failed. As the resource minister, I've actually had more mines approved in the 2 years since taking on the portfolio. Our track record in supporting coal and mining is actually out there to see. We're not just turning up on a by-election.
OK, let's talk about Malcolm in your electorate, Joel. There he is with his beautiful new farm. I'm sure he's not getting his hands dirty at all. He wants 1,300 families to lose their livelihoods at the Mount Pleasant mine because the dust is overcoming him when he goes up to the farm. Give me a break.
This, of course, is John's problem. Matt Keane is still a cabinet minister, and Malcolm Turnbull is still a member of the Liberal Party. But you know, there are two groups of people who oppose the coal mining industry: those who don't know any better, and those who do or should know. And Malcolm Turnbull should know better than to make the comments he's been making over a long time now. He sits up there on his ranch in the Upper Hunter.
Ranch?
You know, telling them they can all eat cake, while calling for the loss of tens of thousands of jobs in the Hunter Valley. Around 14,000 people are employed directly in the coal mining industry in the Hunter, and around 75,000 either directly or indirectly. I was talking to an electrical contractor in Singleton just on Friday. He employs 30 people, including apprentices. All of his work is a result of the coal mining industry.
So the domino effect of losing 1,300 jobs at Mount Pleasant ends up tens of thousands.
Well, of course it does. As John knows, you go to Mount Thorley Industrial Estate, all those plants and workshops in that huge expanse are feeding off the coal mining industry. Yeah. Even the coffee shops in Singleton and Muswellbrook would not be viable.
You kill coal and you kill communities in the bush.
You absolutely do.
All right, the Upper Hunter by-election, you own the seat, you've owned it for a long time, but in some ways you're the defending underdog, aren't you?
Yeah, look, we are, but, you know, again, go on track record. We haven't turned up to this by-election with the big spending spree. Have a look at the commitments we've made on infrastructure. We haven't turned up to this election saying, we support mining. We've always supported mining. Have a look at the mines that are being approved, that are in the system. We've changed the IPC rules. We've brought legislation in the House to deal with Scope 3 emissions. So we've done everything to support this industry. But, you know, and we're in a by-election, and the by-elections come off the back of course, what is now known as the former member. But we acted swiftly on it. You know, if we're going to, in this period of time, judge politicians, they're talking about they want a new standard for politicians. Well, look at my standard. I dealt with a member of Parliament within 2.5 hours, and a couple of days later, completely removed him from Parliament.
It's a pity you had a turkey like him in the party, though.
Well, mate, I don't know. You know, these people get elected. They're democratically elected, and you know what happens behind closed doors, I'll never know. But you know, judge me on how I acted. If you want to change a standard, well, I've set a standard that puts this government into minority government if we were to lose the seat, and I don't think we should be punished for that. Give us a go, 2 more years before the general election, and if our bloke doesn't deliver, you get a chance to kick us again.
I want to talk to you, Joel, about China and India. Building now dozens of coal-fired power stations, low-emission coal-fired power stations. Isn't it better for the world environment for us to supply our highly efficient black coal instead of them digging up their brown coal?
Yeah, of course it is, Chris. We have the cleanest and most efficient thermal coal in the world.
So therefore, shouldn't the coal industry have life for the next 5 decades?
Well, I believe the thermal coal industry will have life well beyond 2050. It's not just the still developing countries like China and India building coal-fired generators. Countries like Japan and Korea are doing so too. So there is going to be a lot of demand for our thermal coal for many decades to come. And you hinted at it. If they're not getting the coal from us, they're getting it from Indonesia or somewhere else where the coal won't be as high quality. Less quality means higher carbon pollution.
Yeah, exactly. Very quickly, you wrote something about gas during the week. We've had an agreement between the South Australian government and the federal government today about $1 billion gas agreement. We haven't got too many details on that. You're concerned about putting a ceiling on the price of gas because it'll detract from investment, right? That's your argument.
That's right.
Why? Why will that happen? Why couldn't we protect the consumer and say to the consumer, this is how much you'll pay for gas in the future?
Well, Scott Morrison's trying to do the popular thing and send the signal he's going to keep gas prices down by regulating the price. But what you do when you threaten to regulate the price, you force investors to leave the room. And when investors leave the room, supply falls and demand outstrips supply, and the price.
So leave the market the way it is.
Leave the market. I set 3 tests for the Prime Minister and the state premiers. We need to get more gas, facilitate getting more gas out of the ground. This is not just me. These are the ACCC's points. 2, we need more competition in pipelines, so we get transportation competition. And of course, we need to get more gas out of Queensland because the southern states are quickly running out of gas.
Yep.
They have an abundance of it there. We can import it from the northern state, but we need more pipeline capacity. Let the market set the price, but make sure the market is efficient.
Get on with it. Joel Fitzgibbon, John Barilaro, thank you so much for coming down here.
Our pleasure.
A great pleasure, Chris.
Good to have you.